Hi, everybody. Great to see everybody joining today for DAM Week. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Nathan Yang. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Media Valley, and today I'm really pumped to be joined by Timothy Arthur, the Digital Asset Librarian Manager from the Toronto International Film Festival, or TIFF for short form, one of the largest and most prestigious film festivals in the world that I think just wrapped up their last iteration about a month or so ago. So, yeah, great to have you here today, Timothy. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we'll jump right in and get going here. But on a whole, being that you're from working for TIFF, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and sort of TIFF as a whole, as a company in general there?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Nate, for having me here today. I'm really glad to be here, and thanks everybody who's joined. Yeah, TIFF is, as you say, it's one of the world's biggest film festivals, and we also run a full slate of year-round content as well. And we're a nonprofit, so our mission is really to change the way people see the world through film, and we've been at it for quite a while. Next year, in fact, is our 50th anniversary, so that's really exciting. As for myself, I'm trained as a librarian, and my background's really on managing metadata for digital collection. So moving into the DAM world came quite naturally to me from that. And I joined TIFF about a year ago to lead the implementation of Media Valley.
Very nice, very nice. Now, on a sort of as you've joined TIFF and come on board with the DAM, sort of just on a day-to-day basis, what have how has it been, and how have you been leading things along here?
For sure, yeah, there have been a few core functions. I mean, probably the primary thing has been sort of just managing the uploading, the organization, and the description of assets in our DAM, making sure that, everybody can find what they need when they need it. And also working directly with end users throughout the organization. We have over 100 users, so a lot of the day-to-day work is really on training folks, providing support, and also managing sort of direct requests for specific assets. If they're looking for something really specific from our enormous archive, then I'll help them find that as well.
Nice. Is there specific departments that you work with, or is it mainly just all within everybody within TIFF, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody across the organization uses Media Valley, and there are a lot of different functions it's used for. I would say the primary focus, somewhat predictably, is marketing. There's you know, a lot of use cases for that in making sure that our content is really fresh and um, yeah, marketing is sort of the primary one, but anytime anybody's putting together like a slide deck or something, Media Valley is a really great place to turn to populate that with some great assets as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. And with 49 years of history, I'm sure you've got quite a number of
Yeah.
different assets and a backlog and catalog of lots of stuff there. So yeah, no, that's great to hear there. Yeah, no, take us through a little bit, if you can, just in terms of how you came to a solution internally that maybe a dam was needed and you needed to get some organization done from it. Maybe if you're able to share with the audience a little bit just in terms of how it was before the dam came on board, and were there any specific challenges that you were experiencing that was part of that?
Yeah, before we had Media Valet, this was really before my time, but um, it- all of our assets were hosted just in general cloud storage. And I'm talking here about photos specifically. Uh, uh, with just photos, we had over like 2 million assets. And these were, just spread across various shared drives and things. We had huge problems. I mean, the usual problems that people have when they need a dam and don't have one. Um, a lot of difficulty finding what we're looking for. I mean, nothing was individually described. Things were described at sort of a folder level. So it was really hard to find, for example, an image of a specific person or something like that. We also had challenges with rights management for the same reason. And we didn't have, metadata directly linked to any of our assets. So although we had licenses alongside them, it was a pain and sort of a risk to have to always cross-reference these rather than attaching rights information directly to the assets. And asset or access management was also a big problem. Always managing access requests and things, and it can be quite unclear who has the authority to grant access to what, and having a robust system for that has been super valuable. And then another thing is that we had like a lot of duplication of assets. Um, out of those 2 million assets that we migrated, we actually were able to run an automated deduplication after we switched to Media Valet, and we reduced, like, we removed about a quarter of those. So we found out that a quarter of those were direct duplicates. So that has more, I mean, that has a lot to do with it fixes fixing that, sorry, does more than just free up storage space. I mean, that allows us to have a single source of truth for each of our assets. So we know that the information that's attached to them, is the correct information. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great to hear and super nice to understand sort of that process of how you kind of came to be there. Would you say that it's vastly changed sort of how you kind of do your workflows now internally?
absolutely, it streamlined things a great deal, and it's really had ripple effects across the whole organization.
Perfect, perfect. No, it's great to hear. Um, Kind of taking it to how today, could you describe a little bit to everybody sort of how you're utilizing Media Valley? I know there's lots of projects on the go. I know we talk regularly just in terms of what sort of is going on there, but for everybody on the call today, it'd be great to hear a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. There are a few, as you say, there are a lot of different things that we use it for. There are a few sort of core collections that we maintain. One of those is film materials. So anytime that you see, for example, on our TIFF website, stills or other promotional materials for a specific film that we're screening, that's something that we maintain in the DAM. So we receive those from film distributors, and we'll upload those to the DAM, and from there distribute them to all of our client-facing networks. And another big category is event coverage. So this is what I was sort of speaking about with the huge archive that we have of past festival coverage. There's hundreds of thousands of images, and it really spans, our entire history, running TIFF for just about 50 years now. As well, our branding assets. Every year we sort of do a bit of add a different sort of flavor to our brand for festivals specifically, and managing all of that, making sure that the right branding materials are used wherever they're seen, is another big part of how we use Media Valet. And then one last one, which is a little bit of a niche thing, is I'm actually located in the film reference library at TIFF, and we maintain a huge archival collection as well, which has a lot of interesting stuff like storyboards and things, digitized, and props, like photos of props, interesting stuff from the library collections as well.
Nice. Are you, I don't know if you are able to, but was there any specific projects and things like that that you've worked on recently that might be interesting, that you were able to utilize the dam for, or were able to grab assets from the dam and made it a little bit easier in general?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that comes to mind, just thinking about our 50th anniversary, is that we're working right now, yeah, on doing a deep dive really into our archives, compiling everything into, or not everything, but some highlights into like a branded portal that people, that we can distribute internally and externally, to really highlight, important moments throughout our history. So that's a really great project that Media Valley's made, you know, not only easier, but it's given us better results than we would have had, because it would have been impossible to really search our full archive without
Yeah,
it.
no, for sure. And hopefully it's made it a little bit easier to find stuff and
For
be
sure.
able to kind of pull it right off the bat there, which is great to hear. Um, Moving forward here, I know you and the team are users of our face recognition software, but love to hear a little bit more about how that's been going and how that's helping you sort of as the DAM administrator or the DAM manager, and maybe how TIFF is utilizing some of those faces that are recognized in some of the assets there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, face recognition has been huge for us. Um, as I mentioned, we've got hundreds of thousands of images from our past festivals, and a lot of those are red carpet images, photos of celebrities. So we often get requests to find images of a specific person when they attended festival. And that in the past would have been extremely difficult to do. Nobody has ever had the time to go through individually and label for each image, who's pictured in it. But what we can do with the face recognition is just, for each face, assign a name once, and then every image of that person across our collections can be found just by searching that name. So it's hugely valuable, and um, yeah, really, it's enabled us to find things that we probably wouldn't have been able to find otherwise. We also at TIFF are lucky to have really dedicated and great volunteers who have helped us with this process of actually identifying the celebrities. So we've got some film buffs on board who go through
Yeah.
and name sort of the faces in our collections.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's you can pretty much also make it sort of like a game to get everybody to go in there and identify the faces that they can. Do you have a count approximately maybe of how many faces that you've been able to identify so far from your catalog of like 49, 50 years or so?
Yeah, we so the face ID has about identified or like picked out like over 10,000 faces. I would say close to 15,000. Of those, we've identified like just over 3,500.
Wow.
So we're getting there. That's 1 year's worth of progress. Um,
Yeah.
and even of those sort of 15,000, some of those will be recognizable celebrities and things like that. Some of them will just be people sort of caught in the background.
Yeah.
So that is really a huge chunk of actually the people that we're often looking for.
Nice. Would you say that the celebrities are the most easiest to sort of identify versus other attendees or other people that go to these events, or how's
For
it
sure,
been
yeah,
for
for
that?
sure. I mean, we really don't try to identify just folks who are in the background. Um, uh, wouldn't have many people searching for them anyway. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. If you can as well, if you could kind of take us a little bit more into detail, just how you're leveraging those photos in general. I know you talked a little bit about that, but is there any specific projects? I know you had mentioned earlier about the 50th year, but is there anything specific in terms of like maybe creative or advertising or branding and things like that, where some of these images that you've identified, they're utilized in certain projects?
yeah, I mean, one thing I can say is that, for instance, like whenever um, we are often called to do a tribute to a certain individual, and it's so easy with Media Valet to just do a search for that name, pull together all the images that we have of them. That's something that comes up really often that we use it for.
Great. No, that's definitely a nice, easy way to be able to find some of those things there. So definitely awesome to hear that as well. Um, Taking a look at and some of the things that we've talked about already. I know you're also a branded portals user as well. Are there any specific use cases that you utilize branded portals for, or any projects that you're utilizing them currently? And just yeah, maybe share a little bit about what your overall experience with it.
Absolutely. I mean, right off the bat, using branded portals has saved us a huge amount of time. We had sort of somebody in marketing who used to individually send our branding materials, logos, and things like that to people internally and externally when they needed them. Now we just have a centralized branded portal, really polished, really easy to put together and maintain, that we can just point everybody to whenever they need branding materials. We use it for a lot of other things as well, like when we have a specific event that we have coverage of. If we want to distribute that to folks who were attended, we can, throw those all on a branded portal and give everybody that link as well. And I mentioned this briefly, but for our, this project of going into the archives for TIFF 50, um, the plan is really to put that all together on a branded portal that we can distribute throughout the organization too.
Nice, nice. Do you use branded portals for any external use cases as well, or are they mainly strictly just internally for now, sort of thing?
Yeah, we use them externally as well, especially when we're working with partners. So yeah, we partner with a lot of organizations, especially during festival and putting together, the assets that come out of that into a branded portal is a really great way to put together like a polished experience that provides them access to those.
Nice, nice. All right. So the big question here, I think that everybody would love to hear as well is, with everybody attending this Dam Week session here, do you specifically have any, tips or advice to our audience members here that you give on, how do you utilize the dam or how to maximize the use of the dam in general?
Yeah, this is a bit of a boring answer, but my answer is sort of to focus on governance from pretty early on. So what that means to me is basically document your processes and document the decisions that you make so you don't always have to be, doing things ad hoc. I think that's really important to be, systematic about that early on, but also you can do it in baby steps and sort of build that up as you go.
Nice, nice. Was there anything that you may have, now that you've been utilizing the dam for a little while now, is there any other things that you can think of that, hey, maybe a year ago you thought of it differently and now your perspective has sort of changed on that as well? Is there anything that you could think of that might, relate to that there?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we're really thinking about right now is how we can. So I've talked basically this whole session about photos. We also have a huge archive of video, and that right now, not very much of that is in the dam, although Media Valley has great capabilities for that. So we're really looking at leveraging those and getting a lot of video content into the dam as well.
Yeah, and I think that sort of leads into kind of our final question here, just in terms of in terms of your goals and aspirations. I know that you mentioned about video. Is there anything else that you might be able to think of that you want to aim for next year? Is it being able to identify more faces? Maybe it's to add in more assets based off of that as well.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, uh, basically, like our focus for this year is really on the anniversary. So that
Right.
big archival project is the big focus, and that also has to do with incorporating video. So that'll be a really great test case for our video distribution as well.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I know that we've talked a little bit about the video intelligence, and so that might be something there to think about as you start to kind of
Sure.
get some of that there for sure. Is there anything else, Timothy? Those were all the questions that I had on my end here for everybody here today. But was there anything else that you wanted to end off with before we kind of jump into some Q&A here?
That's pretty much it. I just thought it's been a pleasure to work with Media Valet, and yeah, and it's been a great system to use as well.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you very much. All right, so maybe we'll take a few moments here to jump through some Q&A questions here. So the first question that I have here, Timothy, could you expand a little more on how you manage rights access? Is it mostly through metadata or through categories or user groups? And that's a question from Kate here.
Yeah, there are a couple of ways. That's a great question as well. So one way is just through metadata, just attaching any sort of licensing restrictions directly to an asset. As well, we can link the licenses directly, the license documents through related items. So that's been really valuable as well. Um, for certain things that are really sensitive in terms of rights, we will limit who has access to those. And Media Valley makes that pretty easy to do as well.
All right. Next question here. This is from just no name, but what do you like about Media Valley that you are not able to find with other DAM vendors?
Yeah. So I sort of joined right when we got Media Valley, so I wasn't really in the process of comparing alternative products, but I will say that the feature set of Media Valley has been really great for our purposes, especially things like facial recognition and branded portals have been really valuable.
Perfect. All right. This question's from Matt. He's asking, how are you using Media Valley with video assets? I know you mentioned a little bit that that's sort of the aspirations, but with what you've had, with those video assets, what impact has it had so far?
Yeah, on really early stages with video. But what it does allow us to do is to search the contents of videos, which would have been impossible before. We had a lot of videos. We do still have a lot of videos that are in cloud storage that basically can't even be previewed. So going from that to Media Valley, where not only can we like watch them and like scrub through them pretty responsively, we can also search the contents of the transcription of the audio, for example. So we have really long form interviews, for example, or in conversation with series, where we can find, exactly where a certain person talked about a certain thing, which is extremely useful for our video team.
All right. The next question comes from Gabrielle here. Any best practices you use for keeping track of talent releases with specific faces? For example, do you use the facial recognition to help organize this?
Yeah, I mean, we're quite lucky that in that um, a lot of our talent agreements sort of fall under an overarching agreement that is quite uniform across most of our assets, where there are specific where there are specific measures, we'll often link the license. So it's not exactly we don't exactly use the AI face recognition to manage that, but the feature set for Media Valley is really helpful for managing it.
Yes. All right. Another question here from Stevie. What is the best resources for learning about branded portals that you've had? I think he says that I think it would be a great route for creating videos and collections that we would like to share with offices that sell our products.
Yeah, I mean, I think the branded portals, off the bat are really easy to use and they're quite intuitive, but I'm sure that the Media Valley folks have a lot of great materials for that as well. But what I've found is that, giving people a really quick demo or really just playing around with the system is enough to really get running with it.
Yeah, and Stevie, I can add to that as well. Yeah, we do have some resources that we can share after that goes through branded portals and a little bit more further in detail as well. So yeah, we can definitely get that to you at some point here as well. All right, I got a question. This one's for me specifically, it looks like. So this is from Greg from Ottawa. He says he works for an arm's length government organization and is asking, do you have servers in Canada? We prefer our content to not cross borders, except for that which is already published to the web. Yeah, Greg, to answer your question there, we do have servers in Canada, so that is something that can be, done there if that's a concern there. But yeah, we can definitely reach out to you again if you have further questions on that one there. All right. Next question is from Catherine. Apologies if this was already addressed, but do you have the ability to use and establish a taxonomy for a particular field or to create a custom controlled vocabulary? In my experience, looking for dams so far, they will simply remember tags entered into a general field, but no defined CB.
Yeah, we are able to create custom sort of collections of keywords, um, but we don't use that many sort of standardized controlled vocabularies because a lot of our stuff is I mean we have specific standards that we use to describe things, but we don't import too many controlled vocabularies.
Awesome. All right, and I think we have one last question here, and this one's from Lori. The question is, can you have more than one branded portal? And in that case, and yes, you can have multiple branded portals. There's no real limitation to the amount of branded portals that you can have. So yeah, if you have different use cases for it, feel free to go in and get those branded portals going for sure. So. All right, I think that's the last of the questions that we have. So I think we can wrap things up here. But yeah, I wanted to thank Timothy again here for taking the time to be our featured speaker here for this session. So, but I hope everybody enjoyed the session today and you're able to take something away from that. Yeah, if there's any other follow-up questions, I'm sure we can get to those later at some point in time. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have everybody here today, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nate, and thanks to everybody who joined.